Talkin Bills and Packers. How's it going, everybody? We are back for another week. I'm Rob. With me, as always, my co-host, Mr. Brian Chalk.
Hey, Rob. How's it going?
I gotta be honest with you, man. I'm kind of bummed out that DVD's not here this week because I wanted to get you both on here and propose that we change the name of this podcast to just Talkin Bills, because I don't want to talk about the Green Bay Packers anymore.
I mean, we should probably start there. That Lions loss. Oh, it's the Lions. Like, what's happening?
They're a broken team, man. They're a broken team. It's just, I'm at a loss for words. I've been thinking about, like, what am I going to say when I come on tonight to, like, when we go over it. And quite honestly, man, I don't know what to say. They're not a very good football team, and they're led by a quarterback. Like, they're talent deficient. First and foremost, they're talent deficient.
And, like, injuries everywhere.
Offense. Injuries everywhere, particularly on offense. The defense was overhyped, and they're led by a quarterback. They need a leader who can galvanize them and lead these young guys to the promised land, and that's just not what they have. That's not who Aaron Rodgers is, and the whole thing is just a terrible mix, and it's not working. And you know, they got Dallas coming up this weekend. That has the chance to get really, really ugly. And then after that, they've got Tennessee and Philly.
Oh, Tennessee is not a team I want to face right now either. They just run it down your throat.
No, and the thing, you know, honestly, man, they are talent deficient, and I do think it would make a difference if they still had Devontae Adams or they had a top-tier wide receiver. But having said that, man, Aaron Rodgers is just he was awful. That game on Sunday against the Detroit Lions was arguably the worst game he's ever played in his career.
And like, he's been kind of on this like downward path since the NFC Championship game. Like, he hasn't looked like himself at all, especially after his like special trips in the summertime. He's exactly. A completely different person now, and it's weird to look at. 3
red zone interceptions. He cost them points. It's just like it's mind-boggling. Like, when you're a Packer fan, it's hard to process how bad he's been. Like, he's had years where he hasn't been as good as other years, but he's always been the as I listen to a All Packers podcast, and the one guy who does it calls him the great deodorant and has referred to him as that, because he can cover up so many of the team's mistakes. And this year, not only is he not covering up the mistakes, he's contributing to them, like, big time.
Big time, and he's calling out teammates for not doing their job. He said, if you make mistakes, you shouldn't be playing. That's what he said.
Yep.
And what does he do next? 3 red zone interceptions or 2, whatever it was. Like, so I guess you shouldn't be playing either, according to your own advice.
Yeah, so there's nothing left to say about them and analyze them. They're a bad football team. They're not making the playoffs. They're not turning this around. There's no miracle coming. It's not happening. One of the takes that I'm seeing thrown around in the Green Bay media right now that I think is really interesting and worth discussing is, if they lose this Sunday against Dallas, like, mathematically, my personal opinion, the season ended this past Sunday losing to the worst team in the league and only scoring 9 points against a historically bad defense. To me, that was officially the end of the season. But they haven't officially been mathematically eliminated yet. And I'm pretty sure if they lose this Sunday to Dallas, they will be. And there's a group in the Green Bay media and a segment of the fans who, once that happens, would like to see Rodgers sort of sit for the rest of the year and have them play Jordan Love, because you need to see what you have with Jordan Love.
I agree with that take. Yep. I think they should do that now.
Yep.
Just start that the next game. Just sit down Rodgers. Let's see what Jordan Love can do. It might help the rookie receivers sort of get comfortable with the system too.
Yes.
Because they don't have that like beam of Aaron Rodgers staring at them when they miss a pass. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And when you think about it, it's kind of a win-win, right? Because if Jordan Love goes out there and plays well, you're like, oh, we have something here. And you might be able to roll with him, or he ups his trade value and you can move him in the offseason and get something in return. If he doesn't play well and he stinks, they lose out. Their draft position gets higher and higher, and they already have the Raiders' first-round pick that they got from Devontae Adams, which is looking like it's also going to be a pretty high pick. So you can take another swing at another quarterback.
That's actually, you guys have definitely won the trade for Devontae Adams.
Yes.
Because getting that pick is worth way more than what he's producing in Vegas.
No, through no fault of his own.
Yeah, no, it's Derek Carr, but
Yes. So to me now, as a Packer fan, that's where my mindset in my head is shifting towards. I'm no longer being like, oh, maybe this is the week they figure it out and turn it around. No. This team stinks. Aaron Rodgers is in a bad place mentally. He's the worst possible guy. We're going to talk about it a little later, but there's a certain other elder statesman quarterback who pulled his team out from the depths of despair and did what he always does this past weekend. And now look out for them, because to me, that was a galvanizing win for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But it's over. Let's put it behind us. Let's get Jordan Love out there. Let's see what he can do. Let's start looking towards the future and what's next for this Packer team, because the way it's currently constituted is awful.
because what do you have to lose with Jordan Love out there?
Nothing.
It's no different than what scoring 9 points against the Lions. So
exactly.
What's the difference there?
And I'm pretty sure that this is Love's last year of his rookie deal, and they need to pay him in some form or fashion at the end of the season. And we don't know anything about him. He started a few preseason games. He started one game last year in Kansas City when Rodgers got suspended. We don't know anything about the guy. So this is half a season now. You can put him in there and see what he can do.
I still think what a terrible draft that choosing Jordan Love in that position. I can't get over how bad of a GM decision that is.
Well, and the problem with it was Rodgers. If you looked at Rodgers' play leading into that draft, he was quote unquote in decline. He was not the same sort of quarterback he was earlier in his career. The last year of Mike McCarthy as head coach was not one of Rodgers' worst years statistically as a starter. Then he goes out and wins back-to-back MVPs.
Mm-hmm.
So he then regains the negotiating power and has the front office sort of over a barrel and is I own you. This team is nothing without me. So as I ranted and raved about last week when we were talking about the trade deadline, they bend the knee to him, give him all this money, but then don't build around him. Adams leaves because Rodgers has lost his mind and keeps saying he's going to retire, he's not going to retire, he's going to retire, he's not going to retire. And it's just the whole thing is a mess. They should have stuck to their guns. They should have walked at the end of last season on Aaron. They should have got out while the getting was good. The playoff loss with the 1 seed to Jimmy Garoppolo should have been enough, and that should have been that. And they didn't do that. I don't blame them. It would have been a really hard decision, but this is where you're at now.
And even Lil Wayne, he's a very famous Green Bay Packers fan. He said it the best. He's we should have got rid of 12 last season.
Yes. I
start fresh, because
I wholeheartedly agree.
You might have a better record if you would run the ball more with Jordan Love.
Yes.
In my opinion, especially the way the defense played at the beginning of the season, that could have been a totally different year for you guys.
Could Jordan Love have scored more than 9 points against the historically bad defense that is the Detroit Lions?
I believe he could have.
Yeah, what a question.
Because Dan Campbell, he wants to see that young guy do good. He's let's give him at least 10 points here.
Yeah, so I don't know. So that's where we're at in Packerland. I think Mike McCarthy's going to have a grand old time coming back to Lambeau Field this Sunday. I think the Cowboys
revenge game. I
think the Cowboys are going to kick the crap out of the Packers, and then I think what happens after this Sunday will be really interesting, because then they're mathematically eliminated, and we'll see where it goes.
I want to see Jordan Love out there. I just want to give us the rest of the season with Love. I want to see what this guy's capable of.
Yes.
And if he's no good,
then you move on from him.
Maybe Lamar Jackson's available after the end of this year.
But if he's no good, like I said, your draft position, you just get higher and higher and higher in the draft, and then you've got 2 really high first-round picks. That's a pretty good way to turn around your franchise pretty quickly.
Exactly. That guy from Alabama looks pretty good. I'm not really sure. I don't watch much college, but he looks pretty good.
Yes. Moving on. Brian, the naysayers, the Buffalo Bills naysayers, have now 2 weeks of material that they're sort of settling in on when you look at the second half against Green Bay at home, and then you look at last week's performance against the New York Jets.
I'm very concerned. We'll get to Josh Allen in a little bit. The running game has gone back to just a disaster. between the 3 running backs, we had like a total of like 48 total yards, which is disgusting because like the Jets, their whole group was like over 150 yards rushing. So it's very shocking that the Bills are still having this problem. I don't know what Sean McDermott's looking away from, like why they can't just heavy on the run. Unless it's Josh Allen. He doesn't mind running Josh Allen 9 times for 90 yards when the guy is clearly hurt. So it's like, I don't understand why they can't do that with their actual running backs. I'm hoping when Naheem Hines comes in that they change a little bit and give him more touches. But it's just, if you give one, like James Cook, for example, 4 touches for the run, it's like,
yeah.
Obviously Singletary's not doing it. He had 24 yards off 8 rushes. Let's get another guy going and give him more than 4 touches, please. Like we had Zach Moss and he could do that. And now we traded Zach Moss for Naheem Hines. So at least let's use our running core because I'm getting sick of watching this. You can't just throw your way out of every mess. Clearly, and especially when your quarterback has a very serious, apparently, elbow issue now. They're saying it's close to Tommy John.
Oh, boy.
And that's what I've been hearing. Now, Sean McDermott's been very quiet about the whole thing. They were asking the media today, like, what's his availability, all this. He said he's day-to-day, but he's not confirmed for the game on Sunday.
Ooh.
Which, to me, that shows me he's out.
Yeah.
To me, he's out. And if it's Tommy John, like, surgery, he's out for a year. Which is horrendous.
Isn't it? So, like, Tommy John's in your elbow.
So, yeah, so he has an elbow injury, they're calling it, with a potential nerve damage in the elbow as well.
Oh, boy.
So it was from one of the hits he took in the Jets game, and you could see it, like, when he got hit, he was grabbing his elbow. It's not good. I'm very concerned. It was kind of funny because my wife and I were watching a movie, and I was on Instagram because, you know, you just go on Instagram now and you watch movies. But I came across that blurb and I just stopped and looked at it. And I was just staring at my phone. My eyes were kind of watering because I'm a psychopath about the Bills. And then my wife goes to me. She was like, what's happening? Like, did something happen with the family? I'm like, no, it's worse. Josh Allen is injured. So she's been babying me a little bit because it's been a tough go the last 2 days here.
I'm seeing sprained right elbow right now.
Yeah, I had it saved. I can't remember what it said, but the term they used, my wife actually Googled it for me, and it's very similar to Tommy John.
Yeah.
So I'm just very concerned.
Yeah, and this is a tough game coming up this weekend, man. Like, this is like the Vikings are no slouch. 1 p.m.
And it's funny because our backup's Case Keenum. So like Case Keenum revenge game, but I don't know. I don't feel good, especially after that loss. Like, if you have an injured quarterback, please run the ball more and don't let it be the quarterback running it every freaking time.
Well, for me, the concern is Robert Saleh. His game plan was to effectively, like, he used his corners really well to sort of nullify the pass game of the Bills. And they didn't really have any answers because they're so reliant on Josh Allen. Like, you don't have a guy who can effectively run the football. That isn't your quarterback.
That's why I'm hoping, like, Naheem Hines is not by any means an all-star running back, but I just hope he brings something different to this room that they can at least get the more touches for those, because I want to see a run every first down play in the next game. Yeah, I don't want to see any pass, even for the first 2 downs. Let's do 2 runs in a row and see where we get.
Yes, I would tend to agree. If you're Sean McDermott, you got to be like looking long and hard about this and getting this fixed. Because I'm sorry, man. Like, if they have a disappointing end of the season this year, it's Sean McDermott that's going to pay the price for it.
For sure. And I really blame Ken Dorsey. Since he took over the offense, it's looked kind of weird. Like, Dable had a very good system with that offense and less weapons too.
Yeah. So
for Ken Dorsey to have this type of offense in your first year, I don't really believe in you, to be honest.
Yeah, it was just there's proof out now on how to stop them. And that's the thing that's really scary.
But the problem is Josh Allen was injured, so is that really proof?
No. But I do think that if you can find a way to neutralize him because they don't have an effective running back, it really slows their offense down.
Exactly. That's why when you were asking me last week, like, what trade I like the most, I said Naheem Hines, because all I'm thinking about is the running back.
Yes. It was a huge miss for them to not go get Christian McCaffrey.
Massive miss, and he was very available too.
Yes, he was, and he would have fit in absolutely perfectly, and that would be like whatever happens with them this year, Super Bowl, whatever. That is a position they need to target next year. Like they need to go and get a legitimate. Like they went and got Von Miller. That's great, a need for them with the pass rush, but you need a legitimate running back.
Yes, you do. You need a running back. You need to address the offensive line. You need to get more protection in the pocket because like half the time, Josh Allen, he's getting these rushing yards because he's running for his life half the time.
Yeah,
because the offensive line is such a joke.
Yeah,
I just don't see this team winning a Super Bowl in this current state.
Yeah, it's. I don't know, man. It's we'll see. It would be really, really, really tough if Josh Allen's out for an extended period of time.
I might just not watch any football. I might just crawl in a cave and just pretend like the NFL doesn't exist for however long he's out for.
And like I said, man, they got a big game this weekend. The Vikings, they got the greatest 1 p.m. quarterback of all time.
And he's feeling himself now, too. You see those chains he had on the airplane?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He is. He sure is, man.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins. Question for you. Do you think the Bucs are back, or do you think the Rams stink?
I think it's a combination. Like that game-winning drive was very
vintage.
classic vintage Tom Brady for sure. Yeah. But I mean, the rest of the game, the Bucs looked horrible.
Yeah,
and the Rams are very confusing. They have they look so bad. It's shocking to me because how can you win the Super Bowl last year? And you have Cooper Kupp, you have like Matt Stafford, who's okay.
You have Aaron Donald.
You have Aaron Donald. They have all these names, but the rest of the positions are so weak on that team that, you have, Jalen Ramsey, for example, but the rest of the secondary is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think it's a combination of both. Like the Buccaneers scare me. If I met them in the Super Bowl, I would not be down for that. But I mean, right now they look kind of broken.
I would say the win. I'm leaning towards the Bucs are back, but post-win. I think winning that game is a galvanizing moment for them, and I could see them. And dude, they're in the worst of it. They could have an 8-8 season and make the playoffs
easily.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. And I've said that all year. I've said if I was a gambling man of which of the two sort of elder statesman quarterbacks is going to turn it around, I said Tom Brady. And I watched him. I watched Aaron Rodgers have a temper tantrum for 4 quarters on Sunday, and I watched Tom Brady suck it up and lead his team down the field and win a football game.
Well, I mean, he's got 7 years on Rodgers, so that's just maturity,
Yeah, it's true. It's true. He's the older, more mature man.
Yeah, it takes till you're 45 to really mature in the football game,
Absolutely. All right, buddy. Let's look ahead to Week 10. This is, what? For a guy who's come on here the last couple of weeks and whined about how some crappy matchups, we're getting more on the right track this week. The game that I have circled, I hope you're ready to get up early on Sunday because I think Seahawks Buccaneers in Germany. We just talked about the Bucs being back. The Seahawks are the shock of the league this year.
Pete Carroll, Coach of the Year.
Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, MVP. They're the shock of the league this year. I think it's a big. The Bucs need to win football games, and this is. I'm getting up. We're going out Saturday night, but I don't care. I'll be up on Sunday morning. I'll be watching this game.
Man, I really like that pick. That's a great game right there.
It is a great game.
That's a really good game, especially in Germany too. My wife's German.
Oh, there you go.
We'll get up. We'll drink some early morning beers for that.
Perfect.
We'll get the Steins out. We're good to go.
Perfect.
For me, I'm looking at the Broncos Titans game. So the ex Seahawk, because the Titans have been really good recently, and it's Derrick Henry's season. Every year around this time, he starts rushing for like 180 to 200 yards per game, and just is unstoppable. And the Titans are one team I would never want to see in the playoffs right now.
I know that when we do this every week, I forbid us from picking Packers and Bills games, but the Vikings Bills at 1:00 is very intriguing.
It's intriguing for me if Allen's healthy. If he's not healthy,
listen,
way less intriguing for me.
I tell you what, Case Keenum is a he's obviously he's not Josh Allen, but he's a perfectly capable backup quarterback.
But he never plays. He never plays.
It's true. It's true.
And like he's now probably getting first team reps for the first time in 2 years?
Yes. So
that concerns me.
Yeah, so interesting. But yeah, definitely much better. Even Packers, Cowboys. Even though the Packers stink, it's Mike McCarthy's return to Lambeau. Aaron Rodgers has always owned the Cowboys, so it'll be interesting watching the reverse happen to him on Sunday. See how long he can keep it together. Should be good.
I bet Cowboys? I'm wondering if I should bet the Cowboys on Sunday.
I would. I absolutely would.
The problem is the second I do that, Rodgers is going to have the best game of the year.
He won't. He's got nobody to throw to. He can't. Man, it's not even that he has nobody to throw to. He's not even there. I saw so many video clips this week on Twitter of guys running wide open down the middle of the field, and he tried to throw it to David Bakhtiari, his left tackle, in the end zone.
That was the worst interception, too. He didn't even come close to Bakhtiari.
And that just goes to show you, this guy's not okay up here, man. He's totally in his head about it. I don't care what he says on the Pat McAfee show. I don't care how he says it. I don't care how he looks. This guy is seeing ghosts, and he's not okay.
Why is he on that show every 2 seconds?
I don't know. He's on McAfee. He does a weekly hit with McAfee every Tuesday.
Just remember the COVID toe? That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Yes.
Another game, though, I like the Bears-Lions. I want to see how the Lions kind of come back after that nice win that they had.
Yes.
And Justin Fields has looked unreal the last 2 games.
The Bears got him some weapons, man.
They're scheming to what he's good at, which is running. I think he rushed for 165 yards or something, which is an NFL record for quarterbacks.
One thing I want to hit on before we get out of here is, do you have any sort of take on the Indianapolis Colts and Jim Irsay firing Frank Reich and then bringing Jeff Saturday out of the broadcast booth, a guy who has no head coaching experience except for high school?
And wasn't even expecting a call. He was like, I had no idea they were going to call me.
Yeah.
But Frank Reich, he should have been fired weeks ago. So that part I get. They fired the OC. The owner came out being like, we have full faith in Frank Reich, which means you're fired.
Yes.
And so I figured that was overdue, but what a weird hire for a coach.
And just a weird year for that team. They let Carson Wentz go, and then they went and got Matt Ryan, whose best days are way behind him.
Especially for that offensive line. What a worst quarterback to have there.
Yes, because he is immobile.
And then Sam Ellinger looks horrendous behind that offensive line, too.
I know. So, it's so funny, these teams, that's two coaches we have fired now through 10 weeks, Matt Rule and Frank Reich.
Yep.
And they won't be the last ones. Looking at you, Sean McDermott, if you don't get this, that wouldn't come till the offseason, but
I said that last year, too. I said Sean McDermott, in my opinion, was on the hot seat last year for how he called that team.
I would love to see the Bills, if they end up doing that, go after an offensive guy.
You can't have a defensive head coach in this sort of with Josh Allen, you need an offensive guy who's going to we need Brian Daboll as our head coach.
Yeah, it just seems like
that's who we need.
It just seems like the way of the new way of the NFL is you hire an offensive coach, you pair him with your quarterback, then you go find a defensive coordinator, and you just look at him and go, you got this. This is all you, and we're going to focus on being a dynamic offense.
Because that's what Leslie Frazier is. I have no problem with how he's called his defensive schemes this entire year.
Yes.
Only 20 points, I can live with that. As long as the Bills score 30 points, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Totally agree. All right, buddy, we're going to get out of here. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out this week. If you like what you see, hit that like and subscribe button below. Spread the word. Tell your friends. We really appreciate it. Also, if you're listening to the audio version, leave a little comment, 5-star review. Every little bit helps. We'll see you guys after Week 10.